Well, thanks very much. Thanks to the Chamber, and thanks to all of you for your devoting your day. And indeed, I know for many of you, most of your professional lives, to trying to address the mobility challenges that we have around here. Because of the gerrymandered nature of my district, I represent all of downtown San Antonio and most of the south side of San Antonio. And particularly when I'm there, when I'm asked where I live, I always say I-35. And tomorrow morning, once again, about 7:30, I'll get on I-35 and hope that with all the starts and stops, I'll actually get there in time for the press conference with Bexar County Judge Nelson Wolff. You never really know, and that's true, unfortunately, of so many of our roadways around this area. With the agreement that was reached last night, just before NAFTA turned into a political pumpkin, and I serve on the trade subcommittee also, and I'm hopeful that we'll have a new NAFTA agreement done in the spring. I think you can be sure that the 18-wheelers that I often get caught between are going to keep rolling with the same frequency that we see them out there right now on I-35 and elsewhere. What new federal help, in short, can we expect in the near term? While there's seldom been any disagreement among my congressional colleagues of all political perspectives about the need to provide long-term certain funding for our infrastructure, there has been, I guess there's been a little exception to that on some of what I think is misguided ideological bias against transit, but generally support for making our infrastructure more competitive. The only problem has been through the years, how do you pay for it? And the need in our reauthorization bills, when they come up every 5 or 6 years, to find something that will be a dependable source of funding. We've been unable to do that. We've limped along with one extension after another, and have usually patchworked and jimmied around to find some temporary sources to just get us barely through the funding cycle. At the beginning of the last year, I had hoped that we would have a bipartisan infrastructure plan that would be supported in the Congress and that we would undertake in cooperation with the new president, getting the infrastructure bill we've waited so long for. Unfortunately, the only infrastructure that the president has consistently led on, as all of us know, is his desire to build a wall along our southern border, not to build more roadways and transit systems across America. Last year, and again this year, he actually proposed cutting transportation funding, including eliminating the Tiger grants, which we've relied on in many places, and slashing the New Start program. Fortunately, both the Republican-controlled House and Senate transportation subcommittees on appropriations rejected those proposals. They have rejected them again just recently. But as many of you know, the transportation funding was one of the few areas of government that were just included last week in a continuing resolution, which extends only to December 7th. And that's when the president has talked about shutting down his own government over the wall once again. I hope the Christmas spirit will prevail in December and that we won't have any interruption of funding streams as happened once before with the government shutdown, but that's still kind of hanging out there. I think that overall the Republican Congress has slowed the president's worst impulses and insults too with regard to transportation. Instead of abolishing the Tiger program, they just abolished the name and changed it to Build. I do note that the changes that have occurred when they did that changed some of the selection criterion to focus a lot more on just what state and local funders could provide. And they did almost nothing with regard to transit funding. Though the Congress has stopped the president from slashing, for example, the capital investment grant program for transit, the administration has slowed the disbursement of the funds that we did have available, really to a trickle, which affects us, particularly here in the Austin area, on our transit system. While the White House has declared that we have had an infrastructure week, I think 3 or 4 times this year, they always seem to get diverted to something else. And trying to decipher The little bit of a transportation plan or infrastructure plan that we had from the president ended up being a handful of pages back in the spring. And as those of you who tried to decipher that, it's about like you learn just about as much as you do from a couple of days of tweets. I think overall it was going to be a $1.5 trillion plan for infrastructure, which sounds very encouraging. But when you look at the details, it's only about $15 billion each year, and that $15 billion is not for what you've been talking about today alone. It covers sewers and everything you can think of in the way of public construction, from airports to sewers, and that's all just for the urban areas. It creates a new fund for rural areas, and it slashes $168 billion from existing infrastructure programs in order to pay for the new program. Perhaps most significant, as you're probably well aware, is the old 80-20 formula gets turned upside down and becomes 20-80, so that our states and localities are called to pay for a great deal more than in the past. The House Ways and Means Committee, on which I serve as the top Democrat on the Tax Policy Subcommittee, has the ultimate responsibility for coming up with the revenue in connection and in cooperation with the Transportation Committee. Since 2011, our committee has basically shirked its responsibilities. We've had a total of 404 hearings during that time period, and exactly one of those has been about transportation funding, at which we were permitted to call one witness. There's another significant factor as we look to next year as well as it bears on this funding. As you may know, California, like many Republican-controlled states, though it's certainly not, recently decided that it had had enough gridlock, and it raised its gas tax by 7 cents. Since that time, that has become a cause célèbre for the Republican majority leader in the House, Kevin McCarthy, who's very eager to become Speaker. They were successful in recalling one Republican state senator who voted for that increase for infrastructure, and now it's become the prime issue in the California election in both Congress and in the assembly races because they voted for a tax increase. I think so long as the political benefits of opposing any new revenue sources outweigh the political cost of failing to address the kind of creative improvements that you've looked at today in our infrastructure system, our mobility is going to lag. I would just close with what I think is a glimmer of hope, because I think we will have, after a very contentious election season and probably a contentious lame duck in December, that we will have a new Congress. And I believe that President Trump at that point is going to be looking for a victory of any sort. And one of the best places to start is where I wish he had begun when he first came into office, and that's infrastructure. I think there is a potential for a bipartisan infrastructure bill next year. It will be a while before the dollars actually flow to our region, but it's important to try to achieve it. I'd like to see us have a special subcommittee to do nothing but focus on infrastructure within the Ways and Means Committee as to how we get the revenue, because there are many different ways to achieve it, many creative ways that other states and municipalities have looked at, but you just can't have freeways without paying something for them. As president, the president has said on a couple occasions, including this year, that he's open to some new revenue sources. What we will need, particularly after these McCarthy attack ads, is more than just an openness to new ideas, but he's going to have to provide some cover, some political cover, to some of my Republican colleagues who I know full well recognize the same needs that you're seeing here today and want to do something about this. They just don't want to be on the wrong side of any kind of tax issue. I think that there's great potential to do that. Welcome your good counsel as we look at alternative ideas and some further follow-up here. We need to have the kind of bipartisan, regional, national approach that you're involved here in today. And I think that together, with some new folks up there, we have the potential to move forward. I wish you well, and I thank you for being here to participate and try and solve these problems today. All the best.
Thank you, Congressman, for that update. You guys, I'd tell you another airport joke, but I'm afraid it'd fly over your heads. That was it. I'm putting out of your dad joke misery. I'm ending on that one. All right, so now we have some very fun people coming up to the stage. We're going to talk about the future state of transit. So please help me in welcoming Delia Garza, City of Austin Council Member, and Wade Cooper, Capital Metro Board Chair, to the stage. Welcome.
I just want to start by thanking Congressman Doggett for being such a wonderful representative at the federal level. I know when I've gone to represent Capital Metro in our delegation, he has consistently met with us when other Congress people won't meet with us. In fact, I think we had a meeting in a hallway for another office. But how are y'all doing? Is everybody awake? Should I lead us in some 4-count jumping jacks? Take me back to my firefighting days? Okay, I won't do that if you promise to clap really loudly when I finish my introduction. Just kidding. Okay. Aggie jokes. Yeah. No Aggie jokes. I'm a fighting Texas Aggie, so. Woo! Oh, lots of whoops in here. Transit has the power to connect people to opportunity, to jobs, education, affordable housing, and health care, and is a valuable tool for ensuring equity and leveling the playing field for so many in our community. And now we have the opportunity to ensure the sustainability of our communities and our quality of life by seeing to it that our residents can get to their jobs, to their schools, to their doctors, to something as simple as a grocery store. Your Capital Metro Board, through and with the leadership of Capital Metro's President and CEO, Randy Clarke, is heading efforts in Central Texas to envision a connected regional transit network. This major undertaking is called Project Connect. And I want to talk about that term Project Connect for just a little. I think for many of us, it's become a very familiar term because we've heard about it so often. And there's a lot of, maybe there's positive, maybe there's negative connected to it. But at a recent board meeting, I remember thinking about that term Project Connect and how important it is to all of this, because that's what it does. It connects us. It's going to connect us in a much better way. Many of us here are connected to our jobs. We don't even think about that. We take for granted how easily we're connected to our jobs, to our doctor's appointments, to going out to eat with our family. But there are a lot in our community, particularly in the districts like I represent, where families make half the average median income of the rest of the city and have a problem connecting. And so Project Connect really will really provide a better transit system that will lift all of us up. A successful Project Connect process will get everyone where they need to go. One thing I really, really admire about Randy is that he rides Capital Metro buses daily. I wish that I could say that I ride buses daily. I do try to do it at least once a week. The earlier panel about the airport, the gentleman mentioned the congestion at the pickup and drop-off, and I said, take the Route 20. You don't have to worry about someone picking you up, so take the Route 20 coming and going from the airport. So when I'm on the bus, and I know Randy hears similar stories like this, they're all very similar concerns, and it's not what color the bus is, or whether the vehicle coming is on rails, or whether it's on wheels. They just want to know that they have reliable, frequent service that they can depend on. I don't know if any of you are familiar with the bus sprint. I myself have done the bus sprint. When you see that bus coming and you're a couple blocks away and you just start running because you don't want to have to stand there and wait. And so I really hope that Project Connect will reduce that bus sprint. We've heard those similar concerns. People aren't worried about what the solutions look like, whether the plan will include buses or trains. Instead, people tell us that they want reliable, safe, fast, and affordable transit options so they can meet their daily demands and have access to opportunities. One thing is certain, transportation isn't going to be more reliable, safer, or faster until transit can run in dedicated lanes. And I commit today as a council member, and I don't do this often because as a lawyer on big issues, I want to hear all sides of an issue, and I wait till usually that morning that I'm on that dais to raise my hand, yes or no. But I commit today to supporting dedicated transit bus lanes because I firmly believe that that is the only way. That's the only way that we can be successful here. and I certainly hope to bring my colleagues along. A strong partnership between Cap Metro and the City of Austin is important in helping us solve our biggest problems. How our land is developed also greatly affects where people live and how they get around. We need to make sure that those decisions are made with transit in mind, because transit is one of the most powerful vehicles in bringing equity to Austin.
Thank you, Council Member and Vice Chair. Vice Chair Garza is a very dedicated servant on the Cap Metro Board and represents voices that frequently are not heard at our organization. And so thank you for your commitment to Cap Metro. The issues, and you all know this, that face us: affordability, educational opportunity, economic sustainability, employment opportunities, and equities are not issues that stay in the city of Austin. We heard from Commissioner Trevelyan that 150,000 people had been displaced by economic issues. These are regional issues. They're not limited to the jurisdiction of Cap Metro. So it really pleases me today to see representatives from the federal government, from state government, from Hayes County and Williamson County and Travis County, from the city of Round Rock. And I feel a little bit like our president did when he met Kim Jong-un when Mayor Morgan talked about adding bus lines from, and you heard it here, Round Rock, Texas, into the center city of Austin. I'm falling in love all over again. It's unbelievable. But this is really, I think, in the 15 some odd years that I've been around transportation, an historic occasion where we have partners from all over the region here in one place at one time talking about transportation and transit and trying to come up with the first time in my 20 some odd years here with a regional transportation plan. So hopefully we all take a bunch of selfies today, because I think this will be remembered as the start of something big. Now, we at Cap Metro have been very busy this year already. We rolled out the largest ever change to our bus system. We threw out the map and started over, increased frequency dramatically. We issued the Project Connect call to arms. We're here today because of that notion that we need to have a regional conversation about transportation. And then, late last year, when President Linda Watson announced her retirement, we were charged to find a new leader, somebody who could execute the biggest ever change in our bus system, somebody who could lead our region in a discussion of transportation, somebody who could meet our Central Texas requirements for communication with all parts of our community and leading partnerships with all parts of our community. We needed somebody with a lot of energy and a lot of vision. And luckily, we feel like we found our guy. So I'm very pleased to introduce our new president, Randy Clarke. He comes to us from Boston, where he spent many years at the MBTA, which of course is a much older and much more complex system than what we have here now, and even what we would be talking about in the next 20 years. And then he had a stint in Washington at the American Public Transportation Association, where he got to see a little bit about what's going on all over the country and sort of be briefed on what's new, what's working, and what's not working. So he's very well prepared, we believe, to lead not only Cap Metro, but the Central Texas region and all the good stuff to come. I'll warn you, however, he knows an awful lot about transit, but he doesn't know a darn thing about football or barbecue. He doesn't even eat the stuff, so I'm a little skeptical. But he talks a little funny because he's from Canada originally and then spent all that time in Boston. And today he may even be walking a little strangely because he's making the public debut of his brand new and a little bit gaudy cowboy boots. So please help me in welcoming, give a large Central Texas welcome to our new CEO, Mr. Randy Clarke.
Thank you. Great comments. I didn't know that was a roast. So, all right, let's get right at it. I know you're all here for the big announcement, right? That's what you've all been waiting for. And here it is. I'm officially an Austinite. I survived my first Texas summer. I got the cowboy boots on, the Wade said. I got the orange tie. I had breakfast tacos this morning. And I'm already tired of all the new people moving here. Okay, yes! Joke to kick off the show. That's what I like. So, no, in all seriousness, I just can't thank Wade and Delia enough for that warm introduction, and more importantly, for their leadership. They are great board and board chairs, and Austin and Cap Metro are better off for your leadership. I also want to take a second and thank the Austin Chamber of Commerce for doing the summit. Mike Rollins, I met him right away, and he kind of allowed me to hijack most of the summit for right off. So I really appreciate all the hard work from the Chamber, and I really appreciate all the people from around the city, around the region, and around the country that came in as participants here. These summits are an amazing opportunity for us to actually learn from each other and see what's going on around the country, around the world. And it's going to be increasingly, crucially important for us to work together across agencies, because multiple speakers has said, we can't do this by ourselves, and certainly Cap Metro can't. So that's why I feel so fortunate to have joined an organization with such a diverse representation. Our Austin City Council board members represent the 11th largest city in America, the 11th largest city in America. We got Commissioner Trevelyan, who represents Travis County. Mayor Jonesy, she looks after Manor and the small cities that surround Austin. Wade Cooper and Terry Mitchell, they represent Campo, and Julie Ward represents Williamson County. That is a great representation of our larger community. And our leadership has been instrumental in our successes and initiatives this year, and I'll talk about a couple of those. Board member Garza, she's championed our bus stop improvement project just because, as she said, she takes the bus. And this year, we're increasing spending on bus stops by over 300%. The board member Trevelyan and board member Kitchen, also city council member Kitchen, they've led very significantly on the issue of equity and access to transit. And that's why our new innovation zones and our new work with Travis County is so important. Board members Renteria and board member Garza again have led on our K-12 pilot, where we did free fares for students through our service area. Mayor Jonesy, she's into regionalism, and that's why it's so important that we now have transit development plans with Pflugerville, Round Rock, and Travis County. Terry Mitchell and Julie Ward, they're focused on ridership growth. But I heard that right when I got here. How do we grow ridership? And that's how now we're investing $10 million more on our high-frequency routes. That's a big investment. And Chair Cooper, well, outside of trying to teach me how to be a Texan, he's concentrating on financial sustainability. And I am very happy to report that we have not only met our contingency reserve fund goals ahead of schedule, we've actually, for the first time ever, put money into a capital expansion fund for future Project Connect needs. And on the state side, we have amazing leaders. So Senator Kirk Watson, who you'll hear from shortly, Representative Celia Israel, who you heard from earlier today, they played a crucial role in getting the funding necessary for our rail station that's going to break ground in early 2019. Now, that's an amazing amount of accomplishments, and I'm very lucky to have this opportunity to work at a place like Cap Metro. And I'm new to the city, as many of you know, and as Wade likes to make fun of. And so developing these relationships is unbelievably important. And a couple other key relationships are people that you heard from earlier today as well. Mayor Adler, City Manager Clarke. Those have been fantastic, and I so much appreciate their partnership. And City Manager Clarke, he's actually really new here as well. And I can't say enough about his partnership working together and how both of our teams are working so closely together on all the mobility solutions and needs for this community. I really can't say enough about the City of Austin. And I see the table over there with all the leadership of the City of Austin, both ATB, the corridor program. And I just want to say, take a quick second and say thank you for all that you do for the city. So you do a great job. And it's those partnerships that are the essential ingredient that we're really going to talk about today, which is Project Connect. So the community engagement process for the last 2 years has been extensive. But I can promise you, it's nothing compared to what we're going to do for the next 2 years. And we need to do that because it needs to be the whole community coming together. In the next 4 weeks, we're going to host another joint work session with the Austin City Council and our board. And this work session is going to be 100% focused on community engagement process. That's going to start with 10 meetings in all the council districts, and then it's going to continue through 2019 and through 2020. And we're going to go into the neighborhoods and throughout the entire region. And community engagement's the key, because it's going to turn this vision that we're all going to talk about today into the community's plan. And it's going to have to be the community's plan, because I wasn't, but most of us were here before. And transit propositions have failed in 2000 and 2014. And that's okay, because as Fred Daniels said earlier today, other successful cities have failed first, and we can learn from that. The key is we don't have to hide from it, and we need to learn from it. This needs to be the community's vision, and that's why our community engagement plan will be unprecedented in scope and reach. We saw in June what can happen when you put real effort into community engagement and education. CAP Remap, as Wade mentioned, was the redesign of our bus network, and involved us listening to the community. And more importantly, it involved us going to the community, meeting our customers at the bus stop and at the transit centers where they are. Listening to our customers is what made CAP Remap a success. And let us make no doubt about it, Project Connect needs to be very successful too. So you've heard from the mayor and from others. Our future quality of life is threatened by one of the biggest issues facing this region, and that's affordability. And the cost and access of transportation is a huge part of that. I said huge, someone else does that huge word a lot. But it is a very big part of affordability. And the population in Central Texas is currently 2 million. And by 2040, it's going to be 4 million people. 4 million. Now, it won't be the size of Atlanta, but 4 million, it's a lot of people. And between now and then, I think it was Will Conley mentioned, our road capacity is only going to grow by 15%. So it doesn't mean we can't have any more cars, but we certainly need a lot more choices than we have today. And as multiple transit leaders have said, we're constrained by geometry and we're constrained by geography. There's really not much more room to build more roads. And so we got to think about that. And as we design our transportation system, one of the big benefits is, if we do transit system, they're much safer. Cities with efficient transit systems have up to 40% less fatalities. Also, transit trips are generally 10 times safer than car trips. That's a big difference. The cities are more walkable, they're more bikeable, they're more livable, they're just more sustainable overall. It's kind of what we've all been talking here all day long. So that's what we're going to do with Project Connect. We're going to work with our partners, and we're going to help build a community, with the community, to help build a city who people live here, that work here, and visit here want to be in. And Project Connect, it's multi-generational investment. It's going to give us the options of how to get around. It'll build on CAP Remap, which went into effect on June, in years of declining ridership. And now it's still early, of course, but system-wide ridership jumped by 3% in June, 6% in July, and over 9% in August. Yeah, that is good news. Yeah, take all the claps and wins we can get. All right. And we saw even bigger numbers on our Metro Express service when the MoPac Express lanes went in earlier this year. Ridership is up over 65%. And I want to take a second, and I don't know where Mike is, but the CTRMA table, and I just want to personally thank you, CTRMA, for all that you do, being a great partner. There we are. Couldn't do it without you. And I think that's clear. What's very clear about this? If you provide better services, people want to use them, right? The whole theme of today. And when we combine the power of what we've done on CAP Remap with the potential of Project Connect, our families, our friends, neighbors, they're finally going to have some choices to be able to get around this region. So the power of high-capacity transit doesn't come in the type of vehicle. And I think we got to acknowledge that up front. That's an important point. We need to be thinking about future-proof investments that deliver on the outcomes that matter to this community that you've heard all about. Equity, sustainability, an amazing quality of life. I love it. It's 6 months. It's a great place to live. And economic development. We're booming as an economy. So we need to let that conversation inform the discussion of steel wheels versus rubber tires. We should have the one goal and one goal only. How do we move the most people in the most efficient manner possible, period. The way we do that is to make sure those vehicles are free from traffic. Mayor Adler hit on it earlier today, and you just got a great pledge from a true leader, Delia Garza. We need to make sure our largest investments are not sharing the same roads as people driving alone in their cars. It's that simple. So we're going to make that happen through our partnerships. We've always had a great partnership, as I said, with the city, the CTRMA. I know TxDOT's here, a great partner of ours, and of course the county. And those relationships are getting even stronger. So we've already been working close with the city on the Austin Strategic Mobility Program. We've been working closely with the city on the Mobility Corridor Program to help make sure that transit is included in the planning and design phase early on. And again, they've been just great collaborative partners to work with. And I said before, I don't think we have to hide the fact that we've asked voters before and have failed on large rail projects. I kind of view that as an opportunity. Maybe it's because I'm a glass half full kind of guy. And no, that doesn't go to Christie's joke about the drinking game. I did not say that, I promise. But I think we have to look at it this way. We have a blank slate. And so I think we have an opportunity to do stuff in Austin that other cities do not have. And we got to take advantage of that. What we come up with needs to be not only improve our mobility issues today, but it has to be ready for the growth and the technology that's coming tomorrow. It has to be future-proof. And as Senator Watson has said, we need solutions that get built faster and provide benefits sooner. And as Councilmember Kitchen stated earlier today, we need to look at how emerging technologies could help us build more efficient and cost-effective transit solutions. Primarily, that's going to be on our major corridors. It's where we had our best investments on things like Metro Rapid and our high-frequency routes. But I think we got to be honest. Other parts of our community may need different solutions. But unfortunately, some of those places don't even have pedestrian-friendly sidewalks. So the next plan has to come together where we make access to transit a important key component of the plan. During this morning's regional panel, Commissioner Trevelyan, again, hit on equitable access to transit. So that's why we need to create stations and hubs. You know, this will help neighborhoods develop anchors, and that's going to provide community benefit and really where it would be the hub to generate economic development. That's how you heard from all these other panelists in other cities. That's how all these other cities work when it comes to transit. And then we could integrate services, like our pickup service that we did earlier last year in the Miller neighborhood, or with our partnership with Ride Austin. And I want to take a quick second, I don't know if Andy's still in the room, and thank him for his leadership. When there's lots of TNC, the history of TNC here, Andy stepped up and created a nonprofit, and it should be acknowledged all the good work that he's done in this city. So I don't know if Andy's still here, but if we're clapping for him, I'm sure he's here. And then one day, who knows, we could have autonomous neighborhood circulators, and the key is that we're serving people with all abilities to get where they need to go. And so autonomous connected electric vehicles and dedicated pathways, it's not on the street yet. You've heard from this panel. But it's not some sci-fi vision either. Last week, I was at the Transits conference that most people reference in Nashville. It's the annual meeting for APTA. And emerging technology was by far the #1 topic that people were talking about. The US DOT, they'll be releasing new autonomous vehicle guidance in November. And the Federal Transit Administration has said they're going to release new grant opportunities on advanced technology also around November. So as the federal government looks at how they evaluate transit grants in the future, we need to work with and partner with them and be open to change. So as part of the next phase of our engineering, environmental, community engagement process, we are going to analyze something that we labeled Autonomous Rapid Transit, or ART. You need an acronym in the government business. So we're going to do that, though, it's key to note, along with bus rapid transit and LRT. The idea is to study 3 things together and see how they might work on corridors. And I want to just highlight kind of something about that. I'm a transit guy, as Wade mentioned. I'm really passionate about it, you could probably tell that, and it's kind of personal for me. I love transit, and not to be corny, but I fell in love on transit. I actually met my wife on the subway in Boston, and I promise you can't do that in a car on I-35. Promise you. And so I've been fortunate to travel around the world. I visit a lot of transit agencies, and as Vice Chair Garza mentioned, I ride the bus every day. And so every day I'm on that bus, I witness very clearly what the value we bring to this community. This is what I do. I'm a transit guy. And I tell you, 3 years ago, I wouldn't even thought of introducing the idea of autonomous rapid transit in Project Connect. Just wouldn't even thought about it. But let's take a second. The iPhone came out in 2007. Okay, that's only 11 years ago, and it's fundamentally transformed our world forever. So mobility is being disrupted, and we need to harness technology's potential to really work on our mobility goals. So Austin's not alone in this change either. So cities like Singapore, Paris, closer to home, Jacksonville, even down the road in San Antonio, they're all discussing similar ideas. And vehicle manufacturers, I've met with a whole bunch of them, and they're already developing roadmaps to how to implement advanced technologies. And here in Austin, you know, we got the Army Futures Command, we have UT, we have the greatest tech sector in the world. I think we got the skills and innovative culture to really dream big. And back to say Israel said earlier, it's okay to dream big. Dreaming is good. So we need to do this in stages, though, if it comes together. And I say all the time, we need to crawl, walk, run. And my staff hates it because I say that over and over. But autonomous vehicles, they may be further out, fully autonomous vehicles. That's why this is a vision plan. But, connected wireless Bluetooth technology is already kind of being tested around the world, as a few panelists said. So it's much closer than many people realize. And electric vehicle technology, it's already become kind of mainstream, and we got some pilot buses outside right now that we're testing around town. So Cap Metro needs to be committed to a sustainable future with a fully electric fleet, and that's something we're going to integrate into Project Connect. There we go. I'll take that. There we go. We're a big environmental town, so that's good. So today on our website, projectconnect.com, we're sharing vision maps of the region and of the city. And the solid orange and blue lines, for example, so they're a reflection of the work we've already done with the city. And the future extensions in dashed lines, they're going to require extensive coordination with TxDOT and the city to see what solutions are feasible. Again, crawl, walk, run, right? So the final plan will be the community's decision. But we think we owe it to the community to introduce the idea of autonomous rapid transit, because we think that's where the industry is going. But we want to study it in comparison to bus rapid transit and LRT to see what solution is right. So even if the final plan does include autonomous technology, it's not where we're going to start. We need lots of engineering analysis to build the fact case. And we need the community to come together on a bold, robust plan that meets their needs. This morning we released, and I know all the consultants in the room, this morning we released a proposal for a consulting contract for the next phase of Project Connect. And soon, we're going to open a Project Connect community office downtown so the community can work with us in a transparent way on plan development. And we're also going to need, as the mayor said earlier this morning, to start the process of allocating space for dedicated transit lanes. That's the primary focus of this vision plan, so Cap Metro can prioritize corridors and then advance to the next step of the process, mode selection. We need to further analyze previous work that was done on light rail and also evaluate true bus rapid transit. And I say the word true specific. When operating in its own right-of-way, bus rapid transit can make a real difference. The problem has been almost no one operates true BRT. They operate services like our Metro Rapid. Hey, it's a good service and it does a good job, but it gets caught in traffic and therefore doesn't prioritize people over cars. Electric bus rapid transit with its own smooth lanes, traffic signal priority so the bus doesn't get caught at a red light, that's where policy and technology could come together and make a big difference for this community. And then as technology evolves, BRT could automate before once again evolving to be fully autonomous rapid transit. So we don't have all the answers yet, but we do know there'll be a progression of technology. That's hence why we have to work with the community, and we got a lot more work to do on this plan. One point, though, I want to make sure I address right on, as I heard it earlier in this conversation, is whatever we end up with a final plan, it's not about reducing jobs and eliminating our workforce. We love our operators. They do a fantastic job for us every day. We hear from the community every day of how good they are and what they do to this, for the benefit of this community. And I think we all know, as time moves on, roles always change. But our number one focus of customer service is never going to change. And so I want to take a quick second. So Brent Payne is our president of our local union. I want to thank Brent for being here. He's been a fantastic partner since I got here. And we're going to continue to work together because we're all in together to serve the community. So Brent, thanks for being here. So again, the process is all about crawl, walk, run, and we're not going to get there unless we all get there together. So now our team has created a short video that's going to summarize the Project Connect vision, and I'd like to take a second to share it with you.
Work, play, love, family. We all need to connect with people and places. And the question we all face? How are we going to get there? It's estimated the Austin area's population will double by 2040. That type of quick growth brings with it a variety of challenges. And how we connect from one part of our region to another is one of them. A big one, actually. Because a rapidly increasing population means an overwhelming increase in the number of vehicles on the road. and our current transportation infrastructure can't keep up. So maybe we need to think less about moving cars and find more innovative ways to move people. That's the insight behind Project Connect, a transportation solution that'll improve our ability to move today and be prepared for tomorrow. Project Connect calls for high-capacity transit with more park-and-rides and regional and neighborhood-based hubs that make connecting and traveling easy. From up north in Round Rock and east to Manor, to Oak Hill in the south and west to Leander, Project Connect imagines that this robust transit network is fully electric-powered. We need to think big, bold, and differently to plan for tomorrow. Consider autonomous rapid transit. Electric vehicles that move fast, increase our transit capacity, and operate in dedicated pathways, all of which ease traffic congestion for car commuters as well. Our rolling hills, nature, and neighborhoods make this area the amazing place it is. It also means we don't have the space to build more roads as we had before. So if we're truly going to protect our future quality of life, Project Connect is the way forward. Whether we drive, use transit, bike, walk, or scoot. We're one of the world's great cities being transformed by the power of ideas. Ideas that come from all of us. With your input, passion, and energy, Project Connect's vision will turn into the community's plan. So, let's make a success story together. The time to connect is now.
So my favorite part, of course, is the taco truck and the animation. It's like so quintessential Austin. So I've shared the Project Connect vision, and now it's time for all of us to get there together and shape this vision into the community's plan. So you see on the screens next to me on both sides, we're going to be conducting extensive community engagement over the next 18 months, most of which coordinated, obviously, with the city. And it's going to be much more extensive than the last 2 years. And I think the real key here, and I want to end it this way, please get involved. The plan will be better the more people participate and the more we turn it into a true community plan. So thank you very much. So now we've heard from a member of Congress, representatives from the state of Texas, the mayor, city council members, the commissioner's court, Campo, CTMRA, business leaders, experts from around the country. Geez, we've heard from a lot of people today. And now we're going to be joined by one of our state's great champions. As a dedicated business and community leader and Austin's former mayor, Kirk Watson has worked to help keep people moving, and he was the driving force behind the formation of the UT Medical School and the new Dell Seton Hospital. Senator Watson knows the importance in investing in a complete, connected, and innovative transit network. He is committed to helping Central Texans meet the transportation challenges we face so we can maintain Austin's amazing quality of life well into the future. It is my honor to introduce Senator Kirk Watson.
Well, I guess I'm right at the very end, keeping you I'm between you and the bar. So I'm going to try to sum this up for today. You know, I want to start off by saying thank you to the Chamber of Commerce. It's wonderful that the Chamber is leading by hosting a summit like this. And I also want to say thank you to all of the sponsors, and I encourage you all to pay attention to who are sponsors of this event because they're critical to our community. But I also want to point out, now that many of you have met for the first time Randy Clarke, I will tell you that personally, I think it's very exciting to have someone with Randy's fresh set of eyes, the enthusiasm he has, the energy, and the knowledge that he has about the transit heading up our transit agency. I think it creates a real opportunity for our region. So thank you, Randy. I don't have to tell most of you in the room that for decades we've talked about the need to do more in transportation. and in particular to develop our transit system into one that's right-sized for our community needs. Austin and Central Texas, we're a unique, wonderful place, a place of exceptional beauty, passion, and prospects. Think about it. Imagine this wonderful place, how it could be even better when we use our talent and our passion to enhance mobility, to create a transit system so that those who need transit can use it and others will choose it. I think you'll agree that today has been a wonderful day with a great progression of speakers, topics, and conversations. The morning started off with dedicated officials from around our region where they laid out the mobility challenges facing Central Texas, steps that the community has taken to address them, projects that are in the works, and the fundamental need to do something bold. Do something bold to move the needle big time, or we're going to be overwhelmed by growth. At lunch, you heard the importance of investing in transit for the long run, based on real-life experiences in places like Minneapolis, by the way, the location of a previous Austin Chamber of Commerce intercity visit, and Atlanta, the location of this year's Chamber's intercity visit. Collaboration and partnership has been a theme throughout the day, but when you heard those talking about those cities, collaboration and partnership were key factors in the success those communities have achieved, and they're going to be integral to our success right here. After lunch, you heard about what's new in the world of transportation technology from folks participating in and monitoring the research and innovation world. And there's some really neat possibilities. There's a lot we can learn from our peer cities and the opportunities that new technology from around the world can offer us. But even if your eyes are for Austin only, then you're probably aware of at least some of the changes that technology is making in transportation. Things that we hadn't heard at all about just a few years ago. Hello, ride sharing. Hello, dockless scooters everywhere you go. And by the way, we're not just on the receiving end of these new business models and technology. Austin's tech community is playing a winning part in this newest economy that we're seeing. From Favor and Ride Scout to Ride Austin and Electric Cab North America. Right here, right now, the Austin Technology Incubator is working with FlightX and Guadalupe, spelled Guada, L-O-O-P. Google them. It's worth a read for you. And don't forget, we've already proven that in Central Texas, people will choose the bus when it's frequent, affordable, safe, and trustworthy. And by trustworthy, I mean reliable. You can trust it will be there to pick you up on time. You can trust it will get you where you want to go on time. To be trustworthy, as you've heard over and over again, it generally means dedicated pathways. And we have sorta a dedicated pathway in the region. Ridership on express bus service in the Mopac corridor has seen an incredible year-over-year experience and increase since those Mopac managed express lanes opened. You heard Randy talk about it. 4 of the 5 routes now utilize these lanes, and riders from Lakeline are seeing a 20-minute decrease in travel time. Like I say, Randy pointed out, transit ridership in the corridor is up 65%. Now, naysayers once said, people won't take the bus. That's a dream, Watson. That's unbelievable. But now we have impressive facts made possible by the partnership that Randy pointed out with the Mobility Authority. And these very real outcomes are proof that Central Texans will use a trustworthy service in dedicated pathways to meet their needs. Now, we as a community need to commit to developing a transit system that lives up to our values, lives up to our very high expectations, and takes advantage of this moment in time where innovations abound and we have so many possibilities in front of us. I believe we simply have to commit to getting something done to address our mobility needs. We have to do this before congestion is impacting any more than it's already done the affordability of our community, the equitable access to education and jobs, our quality of life, and the environment. The vision that Randy laid out is a good one. We need to own it. We need to own its purpose, its understanding of the possibilities, its consideration of what's practical, and then, over the next period of time, we need to shape it into our community's plan for the transit system we know our region desperately needs. And we can only do this through participation, collaboration, and partnerships, with a focus on achieving our common goals of regional mobility, not forcing our view of what the solutions must be. Randy laid out a vision developed from years of involvement and input from our region. It's a vision that we can grow as our community grows, increasing capacity in dedicated pathways as it's needed. It's a vision that can integrate new technologies as those technologies develop and are proven to be safe and effective. The idea of autonomous rapid transit, think about that. It looks pretty appealing and not as far-fetched as any of us would have thought just a few years ago. It's a vision that can future-proof mobility in our region if we do it right. So how do we get it done? What can you do today and tomorrow and the day after? Well, let's start with Randy's last slide. In that last slide, you saw that there's going to be ample opportunity for public engagement, discussion, and comment over the next 18 months. But we can't reach the goal line without a couple of first downs. And the first opportunity to move the change is in December, when the Capital Metro Board will be taking an important vote. I believe we as a community should urge the board to embrace this vision with dedicated pathways in the key highly congested corridors to ensure the trustworthiness that we need. Then we get down to the business of developing our community plan through 2019 and early 2020. Now, as we embark on the next 18 months, there are questions, as Randy just pointed out, still to be answered, including, I'll point out, how some things get paid for. The fact that we still have questions is not a flaw, but it will be flawed if we start jumping to conclusions, ruling out things before we fully evaluate how they might play out, or demanding that we already know what all the answers ought to be. So let's use this vision to start filling in the blanks. And I have to pause and admit to you for a second, I cringed a little when Randy mentioned that 2000 rail election. I'm a long-time rail guy. The people in this room know that. I was mayor back when we had that election, and I was all in as mayor on that rail. I also chaired, many of you know, the effort to get the red line here, which is the only rail that we have. If I had a time machine, I'd take 1,956 new voters, new people living in this place. I'd take them back with me to 2000, and I'd change the outcome of that vote, and we'd have a rail system today. The truth of the matter is, I would take back a lot more than 1,956 because I'd want to kick ass in that election. Here's the thing. If we had won that election, we'd be talking today about expanding light rail. And I believe we'd also have forestalled lots of problems over the past 2 decades. But the fact is, we didn't win. That's an alternate timeline from the one that we're now on. So I invite my fellow rail supporters from 2000 and 2014 to spend a little time thinking about what we were working for. What were the outcomes, the results we were trying to achieve? When you get right down to it, it wasn't steel wheels rather than rubber tires. It was capacity, speed, dependability, access, and economic impact. And I encourage everyone to be open to following where the facts lead us as we enter the third decade of this century. I believe we can make an argument that perhaps we are the beneficiaries of those failures, because we may be now at a place in this third decade of this century where with technology we can do things faster and cheaper than even if we were expanding rail today. We can't allow the community, our friends, our neighbors, our work colleagues, our debate partners to fall prey to the propensity for all or nothing. My way or the proverbial, maybe literal highway. That sort of debate has for so many decades constrained the ability of our region to do something truly transformational when it comes to mobility. We need us all in it for the outcomes, for the results. We need to acknowledge that none of us is likely to get all of or exactly what we want because there are so many of us to satisfy. Let's stay focused on the results we want. Safe, frequent, affordable, trustworthy, and the one we can do the fastest. Let's get deliberate. Let's be biased toward action. We, of course, need to ask all the questions. But folks, we've been thinking about this and studying it for nearly 2 decades. There's lots of knowledge about this. There's lots of knowledge in this room about this. Project Connect reflects the cumulative knowledge and experience of that 2 decades of work. This should not be revisiting what we've already visited. Instead, we need to move forward on the details of what will work and then get it done. Now, don't worry. I'm not trying to move fast. I know maybe better than most that that's not very Austin. But I am saying we need to move faster than we have moved in the last 2 decades to truly get this done. I mean, after all, look around. What have we got? And look ahead. How badly do we need to act? So with that in mind, I encourage you to focus on these 4 questions as we move forward. First, how many people does it move? Second, is it the bigger or the biggest bang for the buck? Third, is it the biggest improvement for the least disruption? That is what I refer to as the broken egg quotient. If we're going to make an omelet, we're going to break some eggs. But is there a way to determine how many fewer eggs we break and have some sense of balance? And finally, fourth, how quickly can it be implemented? Because frankly, I'm impatient. But more importantly, the people of this region are impatient, and increasingly so. They want speed. They are tired of waiting. They are asking, why can't we get something done? They are asking, why can't we get a system that those who need transit can use and those others will be willing to choose? Well, I think we can. I believe this community can. We have a shared purpose. Central Texans deserve access to frequent, affordable, safe, trustworthy, environmentally conscious, and regionally integrated mobility options. And we want it as soon as is practicable. In fact, you might just have noticed, probably didn't, someone pointed out for you. Those results spell faster. Frequent, affordable, safe, trustworthy, environmentally conscious, and regionally integrated. Faster. Hashtag it. That's what this community needs. It's what this community deserves. It's what this community must work toward. When we've taken on big visions before as a community, we've achieved great things. So ask yourself, what can I do to help move the transit vision forward? How can I bring others into the circle? A better transit system is long overdue. A better transit system is needed now and even more so tomorrow. Be deliberate. Be biased toward action. Focus on outcomes. Don't demand a single concept of perfection so that we lose the possibility of those outcomes. And let's get our community moving. Frequent, affordable, safe, trustworthy, environmentally conscious, and regionally integrated. Faster. As you leave here today, contact the Capital Metro Board and tell them we have their backs. Let's engage the Austin City Council, Campo, the Commissioners Court, CTRMA, and TxDOT. Some have already started working together looking at transit. All will need to be some part of the process and partnership all the way through implementation. Let's let them know we have their backs as well. We want this, and we want it faster. Thank you for what I know you're going to do to get it for us. God bless you all.
Thank you, Senator Watson. Thank you, Randy. That's always a tough act to follow. So now I stand between you and the bar. I'm Mike Kennedy. It won't be long. Chair of the Downtown Austin Alliance. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about the Alliance, a little information, and then give you the best announcement that you've heard all.